Okay. So as we already talked about, there are many physiological confounders for ASL that we always need to pay attention to. This is a very nice review that you can also check if you'd like to know a little bit more. Regarding hematocrit, it was a good question indeed, and in Explore ASL, we have the possibility of adding the hematocrit values per subject that will be included in the model, so then it will like adjust the T1 of blood, and that can compensate and correct a little bit for the differences between males and females. Because if you don't do this correction, for example, maybe the CBF of the females will be higher and you don't know why, or the males will be lower and you don't know why. And this there's always this difference between males and females, mainly due to hematocrit as well. That's why in annals, for example, it's good to correct for sex. And there are obviously some differences that we also need to take into account. For example, if you are acquiring ASL, you need to make sure at least that the patients don't drink coffee right before, like half an hour before. But of course, it also introduces some bias, right? If they're used to drink coffee and then they don't, this can also introduce some bias. So there are a lot of things that we need to take into account. Some considerations for the ASL acquisition, as Henkian also already mentioned, but for you to remember. So there's the labeling efficiency. We have to take care of the PLD. We have to consider this post-labeling delay. And also when we do the readout, so when we acquire the image, we need to remember that the signal of the blood is only 2% of the signal of the water in the whole brain. So these three considerations are very important every time we do an ASL acquisition. So the labeling efficiency, the post-labeling delay, and the blood versus tissue separation. So regarding the labeling efficiency, we need to make sure that we plan the labeling plane in a good position. As Henkian already said, some sequences allow you to move this. And of course, with aging, we will have some tortuosity of the arteries. So sometimes when you labeling means inverting the magnetization of the spins of the water, of the blood. So of course, if there's a lot of tortuosity, maybe the labeled water will take more time to arrive than we think. So obviously with older patients as well, you need to increase the PLD a little bit more. And also, as we mentioned, for example, here you see on the left, the blood is getting labels in multiple parts of the same artery. So these will create some perfusion changes, for example. These will happen, yeah.
I mean, we expect for going up, blood going up in the arteries there. So can't we just cancel out the backflow in some way?
Yeah, but the best here would be to just like lower down the labeling plane. Because what is no backflow. What happens is like if you're labeling in 3 parts of the artery, like in the part, I don't know, do they have a pointer? Yeah, so if you're labeling here, here, and here, then this labeled blood then goes back here. And so these labeled blood that you want to label it like this, you want to expect the same time that this blood takes to get to the capillaries is the same time that this part takes. It will not happen, and it will be just a chaotic mess here. So what you can do before, if you can, acquire like a previous scan just to know where the labeling plane is, and then you can like just to know where the arteries are and how they are. You can just like lower these down, or at least if not, you need to take into account that if you get one of these scans where like half of the brain has lower perfusion, that is not because the patient has some problem, but just because the arteries are tortuous. So this is just practical considerations that if you can take them into account. Then regarding the post-labeling delay, what happens is when you have the water spins in the blood, and when you label, I don't know, okay, there was supposed to be an animation there, maybe not working. So what happens is the fact that we are labeling the blood, it means that we are changing the magnetization of the blood compared to the rest of the brain. But of course, because the patient is aligned with the B0, the spins will try to align again with the B0 field. So this difference between the labeling of the blood and the non-blood will get lost over time. And that's why the signal decreases over time. So we need to again make sure that we are not acquiring the image too early, so that the labeling is still in the macrovascular, in the main arteries, and also not too late so that you are losing signal. So this is also very important, especially with aging. Like if you have older patients, you need to make sure that your PLD at least is like 1800, but better like 2000 milliseconds, compared to sometimes some studies if they have younger patients, maybe 1500, 1800 is fine. So try to think about this when you have your population, if you know the age of the patient, and if it's possible, if you're imaging geriatric patients, so older patients, you need to adjust for all of this. Otherwise, the quality of your images will be bad. One question that was asked before, we can also have multi-PLD, so multiple post-labeling delay acquisitions. For example, this is like the arterial tree. You have the macro, the bigger arteries, and then you go to the arterioles and to the capillaries. If you acquire multiple PLDs, this means that you are waiting multiple post-labeling delays. So you're acquiring the images where the labeling blood is at different parts of the vascular tree. And then, of course, you can add this. In ExploreSL, we also have multi-PLD options. So if you have multi-PLD data, we can fit the signal better and calculate and quantify much more robust CBF. And this is just an example of what happens, right? If we per voxel, this is the signal that you'll have before the blood arrives, then when the blood starts arriving, and then with the decay of the T1 decay. And then you have multiple images like this, and this will allow a better quantification. And then regarding background suppression, so as I mentioned, the signal of the blood is just around 2% of the signal of the whole brain. So if we have a control image and the label image, where the signal of the blood is just a little bit of the whole signal, of course, this can increase the noise and the errors. So what we do is that we can do this background suppression. So how do we do this? We suppress the signal of the static tissue so that we can have better resolution. And this will also help with motion, for example. So with background suppression, we'll have a higher perfusion contrast. I'll explain you better how this is done. Lower physiological noise and more sensitive to motion artifacts. For this is an example of this band that you see here if you don't do background suppression. And you also see that there's less contrast, because how does this happen? When the signal is recovering, you have the gray matter, white matter, and CSF. And what we do is that we apply a pulse where it gets inverted, and then of course starts recovering again. And the idea is that we acquire we acquire the image, we start the readout of the ASL when this signal is decreased, like when it's the lowest possible, so that you can get more signal from actual blood. And then, of course, as Henken said, the more repetitions you do, the better resolution and the better signal you'll have. And then for the quantification, we need a lot of things, as you can see. And one of the most important parts, of course, is the T1 of blood that can be corrected for hematocrit in this case. And then here you have the control minus label divided by the PD. Here means proton density, which is this M0 image, kind of like this reference image. Control minus label, the M0 that you can also acquire. And then there are other constants that we add, for example, blood-brain partition, the post-labeling delay, the labeling efficiency that for Picasso is around 0.85 that we use. And then this 6,000 here is, for example, for the conversion from seconds to minutes, because the CBF, in the end, you'll have a CBF image, for example, after ExploreSL processing, you'll have a CBF image that is quantified in milliliters per 100 grams per minute. And you will know how to work with ExploreSL. So this is like today we'll start some hands-on, and you will see that we can go. ExploreSL is a very easy to use pipeline. Sometimes you can have some it is. So what happens is after the import, when everything goes right, you just hopefully just have to press a button and then it will process it all. And so you can go from the, I don't know, Hinken, why you're laughing? It's quite fine. Yes, it's
Jump started laughing at this one.
So we go from the ASL PWY, which is control minus label. Explore ASL does all of this quantification and there's a lot of modules that Matthias will also explain to you. Have the structural module, ASL module population, then you have a CBF image, very nicely looking like this one here, that sometimes not like this, but this is the ideal. So, okay, these are just some reference numbers for you to know. This is quite high, actually. Okay, so Explore ASL will also give you some population averages, so you can have multiple templates, and you can even add your own atlas in the end. And the whole brain CBF for adults should be around 60 milliliters per nanograms per minute. And so if your CBF values in the end are around 60 to 80, it's quite not normal, what we expect. And in the white matter, the values go between 20 and 30 milliliters. So there's always this difference, obviously, between gray matter and white matter. This is also a nice review, current state and guidance, if anyone is interested in reading more. But yeah, so all the slides will be available to use. Of course, you can take pictures, but what I mean is you have all these slides if you want to get back to them. And then also Henk-Jan explained that we have also implemented in Explore ASL this quality control, automatic quality control that Explore ASL does based on this spatial coefficient of variation. So based on how homogeneous the CBF distribution is. If it gets more heterogeneous like this, it says, okay, this image is not very good. Maybe check what is happening there. So we have this semi-automatic QC with Explore ASL, so good quality, okay-ish quality, and bad quality. That might be for something the labeling didn't work, or a lot of motion, for example. Yeah, this is the example of a study from a paper of Henk-Jan, where they also compared the different states of this CBF quality. And the good thing is that we can use spatial COV also for studies. For example, spatial COV has been correlated with, so on the y-axis you have gray matter COV. So the higher it is, it means less quality. So like there's less, for example, here, this spatial COV value is higher than here. So there's more heterogeneity of the CBF compared to here. And this can also be correlated with, as you see, controls, subjective cognitive decline, mild cognitive impaired, and AD. So it feels like the Alzheimer patients in this case have a higher SUV. That can be maybe due to macrovascular or macro or microvascular problems. And so the last slide is also regarding this study, where they looked into, so they calculated the SCOV in the gray matter, the frontal lobe, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes of the brain, and they saw that these values were higher in AD and MCI compared to controls. So this is just another way of using images that can be not as beautiful as when you have very good quality, and this can just be because the PLD is not adjusted. So of course, most of the signal can still be in the main arteries instead of already in the capillaries, and this can tell us something about the health of the patient as well. So some take-home messages for you. Make sure your labeling is correctly done. Apply background suppression to have a better quality, better tissue to blood contrast, and increase the repetitions if possible. And don't forget to perform quality control of your images. Explore ASL. Thank you very much.